Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome everyone. Today's show is going to be very special. We've been discussing every Saturday on this show the 10, what do we call it? The 10 habits of highly ineffective people. All the things that people who are not effective in what they do, either material or spiritual or emotionally, physically, anyway, they do. It's the same thing. And what you discover is that things which cause you to fail materially often are the same things that cause you to fail spiritually. Lack of enthusiasm, lack of determination, being negative, absorbing your mind in the faults of others, and so forth. So yeah, a lot of what we get, this utsaha, nishtaya, daya, enthusiasm, determination, a lot of this is from Patanjali, what you need to be successful in yoga, but it's actually what you need to be successful in everything. And today's show is very special because we finished the 10 topics, and today I was in the mood of reorganization, cleaning up, as I've never been here this long, and I realized how disorganized I am. I mean, I have things I've been in this house for 15 years, and I'm just cleaning out, and a lot of technology is obsolete and throwing away things, and collections of CDs which we don't need. I just have to hear what's on here. And I was listening to some of these CDs, and some of them have music I composed like 20 years ago I was listening to. I was quite impressed at my skills. So, Hare Krishna. So that was interesting. So the purpose for me of saying this is that I realized we have finished the 10 habits. And I've been in my office since about 6:30 in the morning, just studying other things and organizing piles of papers and moving things and cleaning things out. And I took prasadam an hour ago or 45 minutes ago and came down here, chanted a few rounds, dealt with all the leaky air conditioning that's dropping water everywhere. And here we are with no topic chosen. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to chant. And while I'm chanting, you're going to figure out what you want to talk about. Right? You're all going to decide amongst yourself, what do you want to talk about? I mean, natural thing to talk about is what's going on in the world now. That's an interesting topic. But I'll let you decide. We'll see what happens. But let me read the 10 that we discussed, just to remind ourselves. These are the 10 things you don't want to do. The 10 habits of highly ineffective people. You don't like yourself. You hold on to grudges. You maintain the emotional maturity of a child. You blame another person or situation for your failure. You suppress emotions and run away from your problems. You have beliefs that interfere with your goals. Your stories disempower you. You have the wrong stories. You respond to situations with the same negative energy that is thrown at you. Tit for tat. You care about being right, not what or who is right. And number 10, you try to control what you can't control and avoid controlling what you can't control. And if you do these things, guaranteed, you will be a total failure. So, and if you are doing them, should change, stop. You were halfway through the extra document you had created, and you were going to finish that this week. You had created more content for points 10 from last week. I did? Did I? Did I send it to you? Or did I just say that? I could go on forever. What did I say? I have another document where you control what you can't control. I have so many documents. I don't remember saying that. Let's look and see what I have. Control. Control panel. No, we don't want to talk about the control panel. What I control. All right, let's look at that. Oh, that was an exercise. What I control, what I don't control. Sundari Radha, what? You remember? No, you didn't send me, but you said you were halfway for a class last week. You were writing extra content. Okay, let's look. I wrote something about letting go. Okay, I can. This is, I think, is going to come out as a newsletter. I wrote it for another class, so we can go over that. Okay, that sounds good. I had to do another class on this topic. I forget for who it was. Oh yeah, well, I think it was for non-devotees in Scotland. And I wrote a piece called Letting Go. I just wrote it for myself, just so I would have some thought process. How do you delete all the comments? Delete all comments. Okay. All right, we can do that. Fantastic. That could last a while. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time, everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Every Friday at noon, to facilitate japa in Hawaii, we chant japa. So if that doesn't work for you in Australia, that would be 1 a.m. Well, if you get up at 1 a.m., you can join us. But I just wanted to relate. It works for Europe. But I wanted to relate that during that japa, we were watching a slideshow of Krishna's pastimes. And I almost fell off my chair. It was so ecstatic to remember all the Bhagavatam and all the stories from these slideshows. Yeah, it was great. It was super. Super. Super, super. Okay. So, I'm just going to start reading, and then we'll have a discussion. I was asked to give a class that would answer the following questions. How to remain faithful in times of uncertainty. How to remain Krishna conscious when the world is pandemic conscious. How to nourish faith. Life is uncertain. How to let ego, let go of ego. How to let go of the illusion that we're in control. How to remain faithful in the Lord and His plans in times of great uncertainty, and the influence of media and conspiracy theories. And I wrote some thoughts. This was just, wasn't certain what I was going to say, so I just started writing. Let me think about what I would say. Let me just start writing. It turned out to be an article somehow, you know. I'm kind of in the mood right now of doing things quickly, like whatever I can do quickly, rather than, you know, if I spend more time, it will be better, but I could do something else with that time. So I feel like if it serves its purpose, it's good enough. So this became an article. It's going to become a newsletter. So the first section is titled, You Can't Let Go of What You Never Had. So the last item of the unsuccessful person is you try to control what you can't control and avoid controlling what you can't control. So letting go means controlling what you can't control. The funny thing about letting go is that much of what we think we need to let go of was never ours to change, to control, or own in the first place. We only identified it as ours. So sometimes when you're trying to let go of something, then think of what you're trying to let go is actually yours to let go of. It may never have been yours. So sometimes we think something is ours, and false ego is good at doing that. We think it's ours, but it's not. This one devotee, you know, she became attached to a young man. She really liked him. But he was attached, it was kind of a movie here, he was attached to a girl who wasn't attached to him, and this girl was attached to him, but she wasn't attached to him. So I told her, and she said she was having a hard time letting go. I said, well, he was never yours. So how can you let go of him? I'm letting go of the universe. Really? I didn't know you owned it. I'm renouncing the universe. As Prabhupada said, you can't renounce it, you don't own it. So sometimes it's, when we think of letting go, we think, well, what did I actually own? Or was it just an idea that I owned it? I'm letting go of resentment. Well, do you own it, or can you disown it, or, you know, where'd you get it? Give it back where you got it from. It's not yours, you don't need it. Or sometimes it's yours, but you just don't need it. So that's an interesting thought. That was just one thought that I think in some cases we say I have to give up something, but we don't even own it. Or I give up the desire for something. That's also, I have a desire for something, I have to give it up. Well, you never had it, so all you have to give up is desire. But you never owned it physically, that thing that you're giving up. What are you really giving up? Just the desire to have it, but you never had it. So if you think of it that way, it might be easier. Next section is titled, No Matter What, Keep Choosing to be a Devotee. A huge issue many people face is coping with loss. Loss of job, loved one, wealth, or possessions. From the spiritual perspective, you didn't lose those because none of those were yours in the first place. They did not belong to you. Extending this idea to its limits, we do not even own the body. But we identify with everything connected to the body. Some people are even attached to their anger, hatred, or resentment. They can't function normally without it. That's interesting, isn't it? I can't give up my anger. Why not? Because it's my identity. I think that's who I am. You ever feel like that? You have something that you can't give up becomes part of your identity? And the reason you can't give it up is you kind of feel like you would be less of a person with it. Well, that's who I am. I'm an angry person. Or I use anger to protect myself. And if I give it up, then how will I protect myself? Well, probably your anger is not protecting you in most cases. Our lives aren't that dangerous. It could be in some cases, but I think for most of the world, your anger is not protecting you. So, I can't give up my anger. It's who I am. Yeah, well, it's not who we are. Definitely not who we are. It's who we think we are. You see, the thing is, false ego is interesting. Because Prabhupada explains something. You all know this. He explains it. This is my wife, this is my child, this is my house, this is my car, this is my city, this is where I was born, this is my job, this is my desk, and so on. So he said the way false ego works is your identity gets put into all the things that are related to you. So it's not just I'm not the body, but identify with my husband, my wife, my children, my home, my birthplace, and so forth. So the false ego expands it. It's got lots of identities, doesn't it? This is my blank. That's where the false ego comes in. And on the stage of bhava, the devotee thinks, I am Krishna, Krishna is mine. Now one stage it's I am Krishna's, and I think bhava is I am Krishna's, and I think prema is Krishna is mine. But we can just deal with the I am Krishna's idea. So, I am Krishna's. I belong to Krishna. There's no false ego there. The false ego is like, no, some things belong to me, some things belong to him. No, it's not like that. It all belongs to him. So, then, you can extend that to your emotion. So, this is my child, these are my children, this is my house, my husband, my wife. So it's an extension of the I. You identify it as kind of like yourself. And then extend it more. This is my wealth, my job, this is my title. This is my personality type. And these emotions, this is who I am. I'm this kind of person. So there's some attachment. And then if you identify, you get attached to these identities. Others are attached to being victims, to gain sympathy from others, to have valid excuses for failing. When this happens, the past is used to support an identity. I'm a victim, I was cheated. That's another identity. This pain becomes their identity, and they so strongly identify with it that they can't let it go. But in reality, we are not what happened to us. Right? We are what we choose to become. So many bad things happened to us in the past, but we chose to become devotees. Right? So I think it's a good example, because we're not what happened to us, we are what we choose to become. So I think the best example of this is our own choice to become devotees. Because you could say, in some sense, how we were raised, none of us were raised to be devotees. Not per se. I mean, Krishna consciousness is quite drastic. So, you ask yourself, was I raised to be a devotee? You might say, well, there were events in my life that led to it. And no doubt there were. But were you raised? And I think the answer is no, because if it were yes, that means your brothers and sisters would all be devotees also. They were all raised to be devotees. So unless you were specifically raised by parents who were devotees, or a very religious family, would say, no, I wasn't raised to be a devotee. And probably we could say I was raised to be just like an ordinary person, to get ahead materially and enjoy life by becoming successful. And then, in spite of that, we chose to be devotees. So we chose against the tide, so to speak. So what did I say here? We're not what happened to us. We are what we choose to become. So what happened to us, if we followed that pattern, if we allowed ourselves to be fully conditioned by that, then we wouldn't become devotees. But we are what we choose to do. So the fact that we chose to become devotees, I think, is very powerful. Because we chose against the grain, we chose against the tide, which means we can do that, we continually do that. So listen to what I say. This is kind of taking it to its logical conclusion. So many bad things happened to us in the past, but we chose to become devotees. And we need to continue choosing to be devotees, actually choosing to be devotees at every moment. So the past always haunts us. It's our conditioning. Even the present haunts us also. So we constantly have to choose to be devotees. That's what it means, especially in the beginning of Krishna consciousness. We have to choose to be devotees all the time. Because we're conditioned, and events of the past, when we come in contact with certain activities and people and situations in the present, it can arouse that conditioning, and it can become very strong. And so that we have to choose to go against the conditioning, right? So this was entitled, No Matter What, Keep Choosing to Be a Devotee. So it was like, do you ever think, oh, I wish I hadn't done all the things I did before I was a devotee, it would be so much easier? Well, we can't change that, but we can change what we choose now. So I often think, well, I wish I hadn't done what I had done. Yeah, nice to be raised as a devotee in a Brahmin family, never to be vegetarian, follow all the principles, but it's not what happened to all of us. But we can choose to act against that conditioning. So no matter what, always choose to be a devotee. No matter how bad things get, no matter how much your conditioning is haunting you, choose to be a devotee. And pretty much that choice is always being made all the time, consciously or subconsciously. Because the reality is that any moment we can choose Maya or choose Krishna. And sometimes when a devotee has difficulty controlling himself or herself, there's this thought that I wish I didn't have independence, because if I didn't have independence, I couldn't misuse it. Like, Krishna, can you just put me on bhakti autopilot? That would be better. Like, could you just wire me? Let's make an agreement. You wire me so that I can't do anything wrong. Bhakti autopilot. I can only do the right thing. No, Krishna's not going to do that. Definitely. We know that. He said that. He's not going to. He wants us to do it. He doesn't. It's like forcing someone to love you. You marry them, but you're forcing them to love you. It doesn't work. So that option's out. So then we think, oh, this isn't good. That option's out. I wish Krishna. Then we think, Krishna, why did you give independence in the first place? If you didn't give independence in the first place, I wouldn't have misused it. So I wish I didn't have independence. But you're a jiva tattva by nature, they're independent. That's their nature. So that can't be taken away because it's our nature. We're marginal. But this thought it's an interesting thought, and it's always a nice thought to keep in mind. We misused our independence, but it's that same independence that's going to get us out of the material world by using it to serve Krishna. So the very independence that caused us to become entangled, we don't want that taken away, because it's the very thing that's going to get us out of here. Right? So the independence is good. Now you can use it properly. So we're choosing. Like all the time we're choosing. Every moment we're choosing, it's Krishna or Maya. So here's the mantra, and it's a good t-shirt. No matter what, keep choosing to be a devotee. Or no matter what, keep choosing Krishna. Krishna or Maya. Krishna or Maya. Krishna or Maya. No matter what happens, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how much you're tempted, no matter if something horrible happens, keep choosing Krishna. That has to be. And one of Prabhupada's godbrothers said a heavy question. He said, if everyone in the world gave up Krishna consciousness, would you still be a devotee? So that's that kind of determination. Everybody gives up Krishna consciousness except me. Yeah, that would be amazing, right? How difficult would that be? You're the only devotee left. Everyone gave up. Hare Krishna. What a thought. Maybe you can do a movie on that. Everyone becomes a non-devotee except one person. And he's just an average devotee, nothing special. And he has to remain a devotee, and what he goes through. That would be an interesting movie, wouldn't it? What he goes through to remain a devotee. All the doubts and so forth. So, if you... Okay, I have to scroll to see your comments. Because sometimes it scrolls for me, and sometimes it doesn't. And it says, sometimes we're always attached to something. Unfortunately, not only things or people, but even ideas, yeah. Nationalities, identities. Yeah. It's all part of false ego. It's my idea. So I want everyone to accept my idea, because it's my idea. Hey, why did you do that? That was my idea. I want to get credit for that. No, it's the same Paramatma he gave me. He gave me the same idea he gave to you. No, but he gave to me first. Yeah, that's the false ego. The next thing we're going to read is about the false ego. When you got nothing you got nothing to lose. All right. And when all is lost, find yourself. Wow, okay, that's a good song. When you got nothing, Is that an actual song? And when all is lost, you find yourself. All is lost, you got nothing to lose also. Marco, is that a song or you just made it up? Well, that's going to be your new song. When you got nothing to lose. And when all is lost, you find yourself. I like that. Okay. So, the next section is called the false ego stamp. So it expands upon what I'm saying. The false ego rubber stamps everything with the words, "This is mine." Where there is no false ego, the stamping changes to, "This is Krishna's." Right? So, ladies and gentlemen, what stamp do you wear on your... What are you stamped with on your body? This is Krishna's or this is mine? Or this is Krishna's on Sundays from 5 to 9. It's Krishna's mornings from 6 to 9. And the rest of the time it's mine? No. Hopefully you don't stamp your body like that. You stamp your body, this is Krishna's. Yeah, maybe we should get that stamp for initiation. That'll be one of the requirements. In the Sri Sampradaya, they brand you. Did you know that? It's a hot brand. So maybe we can get our tattoo artist to come at initiation, and they'll tattoo. Property of Lord Sri Krishna. This body is property of Lord Sri Krishna. We'll tattoo it on your arm or something. All right, maybe just Mendi for those who aren't so brave. Okay. So if you wanted a simple explanation of the difference, this is it. Material extends from false ego, and false ego stamps everything, "This is mine." So that's material. Real ego stamps everything. First line is in Bob Dylan's song, Guru Maha. I never heard that. Bob Dylan, yeah. You want to hear something interesting about Bob Dylan? When you got nothing to lose. Why didn't he become a devotee? So I saw an interview with Bob Dylan. Like when I grew up, it's like Bob Dylan was like his song. Like everybody knew all the words to all his songs. So like a certain like certain bands, they're so popular, everybody knows their songs. I think they interviewed him once about a song. He said, how long did it take? Some big song. How long did it take you to write it? He said, 10 minutes. Something like amazing song. Genius song. And they interviewed him. He looked like 65, 70 or more. They said, could you write that song? Could you write songs like that now? He said, no, I can't. He said, why? He said, I don't know. They said, when I was young, they just came to me. A lot of songwriters are like that. There are a lot of people like that. They did things when they were 20, like genius things that they can't do, and now they're 70. Isn't that interesting? So, once Prabhupada was walking, I think it was in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, and they said, Prabhupada, what does it mean that a pure devotee sees Krishna everywhere? He said, just like the child's shoes are sitting in front of the house, and the mother sees the child's shoes, and what does she think? What does she think about? She thinks, oh, my child's shoes. She doesn't think that, she thinks it's the child's shoes, but she thinks of her child's shoes. So she's thinking of the child and the shoes. The shoes belong to her child, so mainly she's thinking of her child. Prabhupada said, for a devotee, it's like you're walking in the park, Redwood Forest in San Francisco area. He said, so we see this is Krishna's tree, this is Krishna's flower, this is Krishna's. He said, that's how the pure devotee sees. So that's the stamp, this is Krishna's property. How does false ego see? False ego sees, that's nice, how can I get it? So that means potential, I like that, I want one like that, right? All right, that's a nice tree, redwood tree. I like to have a redwood table. It's always either how can I get it, or how can I, just get it in my head that it's mine, or potentially, So that's false ego. It's nothing is in relation to Krishna. So, it's such a simple definition. Everything in relation to Krishna is real ego. Everything in relation to me is false ego. So I think it all belongs to me. It doesn't belong to us. This universe was here long before we dropped in. And, it was all here. It didn't belong to us. Even the elements in our body are not owned. We don't own them. They're not ours. We didn't create them. That joke, the scientist goes to God and says, hey, we don't need you. We can create life now. You're irrelevant. He goes, really? God says, well, why don't we have a competition? And the scientist says, okay. He says, we'll do it like you did, like we'll create it from mud, and, we'll create it from the elements of the earth, and then we'll make it alive. So God said, okay. And then the scientist went to start working, gathering the elements of the earth, and God said, wait a minute, get your own dirt, that's mine. Ha ha ha. You can laugh. That was funny. So that's the reality. So it's not yours. Now, when a young girl sees a beautiful boy, thinks, oh, he's so beautiful. I wish he were my boyfriend. A young man sees a young girl, oh, she's so beautiful. I wish she were my girlfriend. So that girl or that boy was not created for you, created for Krishna. Now, Krishna, here's the interesting part of all this. Krishna will give you one girl or one boy if you want to get married. But you have to become servant of that girl or boy. You have to see that girl or boy as belonging to Krishna, not belonging to you. And you have children. Everybody wants to have children, big family, and enjoy their children. sorry for the bad news, but those aren't your kids. They're Krishna's kids. And you have to treat them and see them as Krishna's, not as yours for your enjoyment. You're responsible for them, and you're responsible to help them become Krishna conscious. That means you're seeing them in relation. You're seeing them as Krishna's. So anything that you want to enjoy, this is very, very simple, but sometimes simplicity, in making something simple, you get the depth of it. But, so I'll say it, it's simple. Anytime you think, oh, this would be enjoyable, that's false ego, because who was going to enjoy it? And anytime you think, this would be nice for Krishna, that's real ego. So you're driving through a beautiful neighborhood in Sydney. I think where was I? I think I was in Melbourne. I think it was in Melbourne. And we're driving here and driving there. And I had never saw any neighborhoods that weren't beautiful. I said, are there any neighborhoods that aren't this nice? And they said, yeah. And I said, I've never seen them. So you drive through these beautiful neighborhoods and trees and hills and beautiful backyards and nice homes and balconies and nice color and architecture. And you might think, I'd like to have a home like that. Or you might think, that home would be nice for a temple. So one, you're thinking, my home I'll enjoy. One, you're thinking, Krishna's home will serve him. That's it. That's the simplest way to explain the difference between real ego and false ego. And wherever there's real ego, there's spiritual life. Wherever there's false ego, there's material life. That's it. It's very simple. Okay. Is that okay? I have to go down and see if you're... Okay, no more comments? That's why an advanced devotee is renounced, because he doesn't see things as himself, and that's why he can face death more easily, because he doesn't think he's the body, so it's not losing anything. My body. Okay, the next section is called blissful stress. Sometimes when there was a lot of stress in my service, there was still a blissful sense to it all. The sense that this is for Krishna, and therefore suffering on his behalf is a pleasure. When compared to the stress we must endure to maintain ourselves, or the stresses we encountered in trying to be happy without Krishna before we became devotees, devotional stress is much different, because while acting, we are not identifying our work and all related to that work, our service, as ours. So, I think maybe you've had this experience. Have you ever been in anxiety over getting something you wanted, running to the store? I hope they didn't sell out, or hope I can get enough money to buy this, or, I want to go on vacation, there's only one room left, I hope I get it, and we're late to the airport, and I don't want to miss my plane. Yeah, it's all about ourself. So that anxiety is a bit stressful, isn't it? Because it's just about us. But have you ever done devotional service and been in stress? But who's the stress for? Stress is for Krishna, right? Okay, hold on. It's time for a lighting adjustment. We're getting too much light here. I don't know why we're getting light here, because the sun, this is interesting. The sun is over there. And we're getting a lot of light here. Can someone explain that? I don't understand. I have no idea how that happens. Okay, hold on. It's not perfect yet. I have to invoke more lighting here for the perfect. Perfect. This is my... How's that? Beautiful? Is it beautiful, or is it beautiful? So, couple of years ago, had to take on some service that was unpleasant, and I was feeling fortunate to do the service, because when you love somebody and you do something for them, even though it's stressful, even though you have to go through anxiety, just a certain pleasure in going through that anxiety, isn't it? Have you had that experience? There's a certain pleasure when you undergo an austerity for someone you love. And even though, say, externally there's some inconvenience, some austerity, some stress, anxiety, but the nature of it is blissful, because it's for the person you love, isn't it? So, yeah. Yes. The conclusion is false ego is the actual cause of distress by making it difficult to let go because of identifying what we need to let go of as ours. So, if we overcome false ego, life is so much easier. Okay, the next section is entitled Wishing I Could Change the Past. Now, we had talked about this in one of the dysfunctions of the ineffective person. One of the most graphic examples of holding on is being upset about the past and wishing it were different. Of course, it's natural to think this way when the past has had dire consequences. When the past has dire consequences. I thought this was edited, but I guess this is the unedited version. No, this is supposed to be the edited version. Oh my God, it's full of mistakes. When the past has dire consequences on the present. But as we all know, we can't rewrite the past, yet we often dwell on the, quote, if only it were different thoughts. Objectively, such thoughts are useless, and we need to let go of all hope for a better past. Still, we hold on, and this often causes the past to define us and prevent us from making the future what we really want it to be. So this is interesting. You know, when you talk about trying to control, what comes to mind is like situations that aren't going our way, and we're dealing with in the present, and we're hoping they can go differently, and we're trying to manipulate them. And as they don't go the way we want, we become more frustrated and more upset, and we try harder to control them. How can we let go of the past? That doesn't help with our Krishna consciousness. Can you restate that question again? How can we let go of the past? Oh, that doesn't help. The past that's hurting our Krishna consciousness. Okay. We'll get there. So, first, okay, Rupa, we'll speak to you. First, just meditate on this. Meditate on something you can't control. Like something obvious, like the rising or setting of the sun. Now, if you've told us, tomorrow morning I'm going to make the sunrise, we'd be like calling your mother and say, I think your daughter needs like help. Something's wrong right now. She thinks she's going to make the sunrise. I just heard some devotee said something crazy like that. Someone was telling me that their brother is like said something crazy, yeah. So of course, Rupa, you're not going to say that because it's obvious. So if there's something obvious you can't control, it's so obvious you can't control it that you wouldn't think about controlling it. But try to see the past as obviously uncontrollable as you making the sunrise, or you exploding a bridge tomorrow morning just by breathing on it. Something ridiculous that could never happen. And that's exactly what it is. The past, it's already gone, so how can you change it? How can you control it? You can't. So the mantra, stop hoping for a better past. It's like we're wishing it didn't happen. But it did happen. And part of being Krishna conscious is learning to accept the reality and being able to go forward in our life without being affected by things that don't go our way. And many things will not go our way, right? So there are going to be many strategies to doing it, to letting go. But if we start on the philosophical platform, like, can I control this? No, it happened, right? It's a reality. Yeah, I wish it didn't happen. I wish it didn't happen. I don't want it to happen. I can't believe it happened. Why did it have to happen, etc., etc. But once you face the reality that it happened, and it's over with, and it can't be changed, it's going to make it easier to let go, because then you realize, well, I don't really have anything to let go of because it's already over. I can't control it. Right? Then you might say, yeah, but there's ramifications from what happened. Okay, I can't control it, but there's ramifications. But the ramifications also happened that were out of your control. So if you understand that one of the biggest lessons we need to learn to exist in this world peacefully, and more importantly, to be Krishna conscious, is to accept what we can't control. That is the test. So one thing I would say to you, Rupa, is see it as a test, because these are things we have to learn. And now there's a situation which happened in the past. You can't change it, but it's difficult to accept. But now it's your challenge to figure out how to accept it. So I'm kind of throwing the question back to you. You tell me how you can accept it. You figure out, you pray to Krishna, how you can accept it. Because this is what we all have to do for the rest of our lives. Be able, you can try to make a situation better, you can try to improve it, but often there's not a lot you can do. And obviously, when something has already happened, there's nothing more you can do. It's history. So I think it's a question, or at least partially a question, of spiritual maturity, that you evolve to a point where you're willing now in your life to be more accepting of what you can't control. See, the thing is, we all want life to be a certain way. Like Rupa, if you think about your life and you think, what do you want? You have all these ideas of how you want your life to be, who you want to marry, where you want to live, the kind of job you want, the kind of house you want to live in, right? And those are all control issues, in the sense that we have to make those things happen. And that's normal. That's how everybody lives. So when those things don't happen the way we wanted them to happen, it's frustrating, because we were planning on them happening that way. As a devotee, someone in Krishna consciousness, you may make plans. But as Prabhupada said, I have my plans, Krishna has his plans. So that's the attitude of a devotee. And not so attached to his plans. This is what I would like to do. And especially if the plans aren't for Krishna's service, it's just what you want personally, then definitely we have to learn to be more accepting, because it may never happen. Right? Hare Krishna. Yes. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Vrindavani. So here's a recommendation from Sundari Radha. Take Gurudev's forgiveness course, step-by-step directions in the process of acceptance, letting go, and moving forward. I have 2 forgiveness courses. BhaktiEducationOnline.com, I think it is, or Bhakti Education. BhaktiEducationTeachable.com. That's it. Bhakti, can you put that up? BhaktiEducationTeachable.com. Yeah. Take my course, it'll help you. It's not just about forgiveness, it'll nourish you in so many ways. And the course evolved out of my own experiences, my own studies, and my own helping of people deal with this kind of stuff. Rupa. What kind of Rupa are you? Pujari Rupa, Panda, the Pandas, Pandya. What does Pandya mean? You have the Pandas in Jagannath Puri, but this is different, right? The form of a panda bear. No, it couldn't be. Your parents wouldn't name you a panda bear. So, none of us need to lament for the past, but we need to work in the present to create the future we want. Right? Because the past is over, so you can lament about it, but that's not really going to help much. And it certainly could harm you also. So we were having class earlier today for devotees in London. And so an issue came up, and a lady was offended by a senior devotee, and she asked me how to deal with it, and I told her how I deal with it is I just don't feel that I have the time or energy to focus on something that would take me away from Krishna consciousness. So if I allow myself to get upset about something, then it's going to take me away from Krishna consciousness. And all the energy I could be putting in to my hearing and chanting and service to Krishna, I start putting that energy into thinking about this person and being upset about the person. Thinking about what they said, how it was wrong, what's wrong with them. And it just goes down a very dirty path. And it steals away my Krishna consciousness. So that's another thing to consider, like whenever you're faced with a difficult situation, and say you could be dwelling on it, maybe you could even improve it or solve it, but in the process it may drain you of energy and time, and it may not be necessary to solve it. So that's something you can think. Panda is a Brahman name. Rupa the Brahman. Brahman. Rupa, I have some bad news for you. Do you ever, people, you're not saying this, but sometimes people say, I am a Brahmin. And I say, oh, that's so unfortunate. I was born in a Brahmin family. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Because in Kali Yuga, it said everyone's born a Shudra, or that's a compliment, even less. And, but there's another verse. This is a scary verse, and to me it's kind of funny. It said, in Kali Yuga, the demons will take birth in Brahmin families. That is so funny. So if someone says, I am Brahmin, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, because in Kali Yuga, the demons take birth in Brahmin families. And Prabhupada defended us as being Brahmins, Vaishnavas, when we were being attacked as Malechas. Well, we are Malechas by birth, but he elevated us to the Brahmin platform. So now, Rupa, you become a real Brahmin. Be Krishna conscious, be a real Brahmin. We would see these people in India, or sometimes they would come to the West, and they'd see us, and they'd learn that we are Vaishnavas, and they'd go like this, I am Brahmin, I am Brahmin. They'd show us the thread, just so we believe them, right? And Prabhupada always said, yeah, wearing a 2-paisa thread doesn't make you a Brahmin. That was kind of a theme. Yeah. You're a Brahmin by birth, now become a Brahmin by quality. Yeah, it was Prabhupada's mercy, he gave women Brahmin initiation. Yes, everybody. They say women this, women that. Is it everybody this, everybody that? Kali Yuga is like, the men are more qualified than the women. That's interesting. It's right there in the Shastra, it says, Striyo Vaishyas Tata Shudras. Yeah, well, women, Vaishyas, and Shudras, the lower class. Yeah, but Kalo Shudra Shambhava, Kali Yuga, everyone's Shudra, but that's even a compliment because that's not even true. There's so many people who are not Shudra, they're outcasts. They're out. You know what outcast means? It means you don't have a caste. You're without a caste. Sir, you're an outcast. You have no caste. You're out of a caste. You're not Sudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, or Brahmin. You are out of caste. You are an outcast. Prabhupada picked up the outcasts and gave us the Brahmin caste. And the Brahmins were mad and said, you can't do that. And Prabhupada said, yes, I can. Shastra says I can, so I'm doing it. And then he'd make us Brahmins and we'd do deity worship and all that. And they would try to say we're not Brahmins. And Prabhupada would say, yes, they are. So he fought for that. Bhaktisiddhanta fought for that. Okay. So the next section is called self-torture. This is interesting. This is something that I noticed, particularly as a counselor, that often we're causing ourselves trouble unnecessarily. Holding on is often a kind of self-torture. When we can't change something, we obviously need to accept it, move on, and not allow it to affect us. Yet often we can't. We cling on to hopes that we can make it better when all evidence shows us we can't. It's as if the entire universe is conspiring to make events happen in a particular way. Yet we can't accept. The result of this is best described as self-torture. You know, like, have you ever been in that situation where things are going in a way that you really don't want them to go, or going in a way that is like a nightmare for you, but you can't do anything? You can try to do something, but it's useless. And sometimes we're in situations and we're just trying to do something even though we know we can't, just out of some vague hope that some miracle will happen. And so we end up, like, when we don't accept, we end up torturing ourselves, isn't it? So this word self-torture, I like this word. And I don't like it that we torture ourselves, but I like the word because it's graphic and it describes what we do to ourselves. And I think it's a nice word. It's nice to think I'm torturing myself and I shouldn't be. Right? You agree? Say Haribol if you agree. Don't torture yourself. Lecture, Bhagavad Gita 123, July 19th. Sattvasta, those who are qualified Brahmins strictly following the principles. Samadhamastapos, Socham. Let's go. If you follow these principles, controlling the senses, truthful, clean, full of knowledge, believing the Shastra and God, and Vijnanam, practical application of knowledge in life, Vijnanam, simply to know is useless. You must practically apply in life. That is called Vijnanam, practical examination. Those are our science students in BAC. They have to give past theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge. Simply theoretical knowledge. So much hydrogen, oxygen mixes water, that is theoretical. But when you mix hydrogen, oxygen, gas and actually prepare water, that is called practical. So that is science. Science means simply theoretical knowledge, not sufficient. Observation and experiment, experimental knowledge, that is called Vijnana. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to the next section. The ultimate letting go, death. The ultimate letting go is death. If we are practiced in letting go now, and we should be practicing, then the ultimate letting go will be natural. Something we're used to doing. So we've been giving talks on death for like 2 months now or more. from the end of March. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been giving them, if you're not attending, that's every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. One day we talk about balance, and the other days we talk about death, dying, the spiritual world. And I think one of the themes that kept coming up that caught my attention is that if you look at what you go through at death, what you have to tolerate, what you have to accept, what you have to detach from, what you have to let go of, and then you just go backwards, then you understand that in life, when there's a chance to accept something that's difficult or let go of something that's not good for you, that you're attached to, tolerate something that's upsetting, then you realize, in this context, well, this is what's going to happen at the final moment of my life. And in order for me to be able to do that, I have to learn how to do this now. And I think that's really, really important, because sometimes we come up into these situations and we say, I just can't let go. I just can't accept. I just can't detach. But if we think, no, wait a minute, I have to learn how to do these things, because at the time of death, what I have to accept, let go of, and detach from is going to be far more difficult than this. And if I can't pass this exam, how will I pass that one? Right? So it's a beautiful thought. Not only beautiful thought, it's true and it's powerful. And everything that we studied on this topic, we understood Prabhupada saying that all the challenges in the world, all the challenges in life, is just your practice for the biggest challenge. And whatever challenges you have here, you're going to face a death. And then we read a letter that a devotee wrote, and I don't remember exactly when she wrote it. My remembrance was in the last few days or few hours of her life in that body. And she said, if you learn to tolerate whatever difficulties are there in your service and remain steady, said, then when you're on your deathbed, you'll be very easily able to do this. And she was speaking from realization. And I thought, wow, that's almost as good as somebody coming back from the dead and telling you how to face death and like telling you what's going to happen. So when I read that, it just confirmed this point that you've been practicing, if you're practicing austerity and practicing tolerance and detachment and acceptance and been doing a good job of it, then when you're in your last days, you'll be well prepared for that, because that's what you're going to be doing. So I think that's super, super powerful, super, 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 super important. Don't you? You agree? So it's a beautiful way of seeing all the challenges, because a lot of times we have difficulty facing challenges, and we have reasons to not face them or reasons to avoid them, deny them, whatever. But if you think, well, this is something I'm going to have to learn, it's like basic training in the military. You know, and I lived in San Diego, and there was a big Marine base there. And we used to do Sankirtan near the Marine base, and they would have what are called Army games periodically. And they would just play like there's a war. And, you know, they would have different sides, and they would play like there's a war. And they would try to simulate the realities of war so that when they went into war, they were prepared. That's what all your training does. And as a firefighter, you're training, as a boxer, a wrestler, as an athlete, all your training is so that when you go into the actual game, you're prepared. So life is like that, you know. We're being trained all the time. So this letter was amazing, because her conclusion was that you can all do this. Death will not be difficult for you if you just learn tolerance now. Then when you come to that moment, you'll be able to do it. And it makes total sense, doesn't it? If you've practiced to be a more tolerant person, more accepting, more detached, so forth. Doesn't that make sense? That naturally, at that moment, it's like you don't want to spend your whole life cultivating Krishna consciousness, and then the last, few days you lose your mind. Oh, I can't deal with it. Because your whole life was just exactly, everything was just the way you wanted it, and you were, go crazy if things got changed. Oh, you moved my pen 3 inches on my desk. I hate you, We can't live like that, because that only prepares us for taking another birth. Right? So, well, it's like, here's the big question. Are you preparing for another birth, or are you preparing to go back to Godhead? Well, how will you answer that question? Well, look at your acceptance, look at what you're trying to control, look at your detachment. Look at your level of tolerance, and that's kind of give you a little gauge of how you're doing, how you're going to be doing when you enter the real battle. Does that make sense? Yes, 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 yes. Okay. The next section is, I was never in control. Even our anxiety, fear, and worries were not here before our birth, and will not remain afterwards, just as all material things do not remain with us. So letting go of the need to control is recognizing that I was never in control. And there's nothing to let go of. Oh, we're a little controller. I can only let go of the concept that I was in control. It means if you let go of the concept that you're in control, then you don't have anything to let go of, anything else to let go of that you thought you were in control of. It means to acknowledge that it was only because of the false ego that I thought I was in control. So that's a kind of a second thought on the first thought. Recognizing that I wasn't in control, so that's an important point. You say, how do you let go? By recognizing that you were never, you don't have to let go because you were never actually holding on. You just thought you were holding on. You thought you were controlling. You have a little toy and you're turning the steering wheel, but it's not doing anything. It's just an illusion that it's doing something. So you tell the kid, let go. I can't let go, I'm steering. No, if you let go, you realize that the steering wheel doesn't work. It's not steering. It's being steered by another person somewhere else, or it's on a track. So it's like that. You let go. Let go enough to realize it was never yours to hold on to. Correct? 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 That's what they say in India. Correct? Is that how they do it? Correct. You may say, oh, you're making fun of Indians. I was probably Indian in my last life. I'm just making fun of myself. But unless you're a Westerner, it'll be hard for you to understand how funny and unusual it is for Westerners to go to India and see how Indians do things. It's very different. Sometimes even like unbelievable for us. Like they'll do or say something. It's like, I can't believe they did that. Sometimes in a transcendental way and sometimes not. But it is different. Correct? Correct. Okay, the next section is, at the end of class, you please announce Janava's master class next week. Time for a special announcement. Next week, I don't even know the day and time. Can you tell me the day and time? I'm going to do the ad and I don't even know the day and time. Do you have trouble in your marriage? Now, the southern accent in America, yeah, it's very funny. Even for us as Americans, it doesn't sound like English. So sometimes people speak with that southern accent and they're talking to me. It's like, could you speak English? I can't understand you. I'm a devotee. Hare Krishna, partner, I'm a devotee. Saturday, next Saturday at 10 a.m. So let me tell you about this course. If you're married, if you want to be married, if you're thinking about being married, then you should definitely go, because you're going to learn things that are going to help you tremendously. So several years ago, my wife she had been taking different courses on coaching and counseling. And coaching and counseling is it's challenging because you're dealing with different situations all the time. So you have to be really good to adapt. And she had taken many courses, and then she'd met another devotee who had taken a course. She said, why don't you specialize in marriage counseling? Devotees need it, the world needs it, and if you take this course, they lay it all out for you, and it's very easy, and you'll be very successful at it because they've studied it for 40 years. So she asked me about it, and one devotee had given us a decent donation to employ in preaching. And I thought, let's employ this in training. In training, not all the money he gave, but some of it that he gave we spent on the training. So she did, I think, 4 trainings for 4 different weekends. And by following this system, because it's so well researched and tried and true, it's been 40 years that it's been developed and revised. She said it just works amazingly. And she's having so much success in helping couples, and the couples are really happy in doing her coaching. So we want to do a whole course, and we thought, well, let's just do an introductory course. You can come to introductory course, you can meet my wife, you can see if you like what she's teaching, so she'll teach the section from that course. It's one of the most important sections in the course, so it's definitely going to help you, for sure. There's certain things that they've found that if you do them, it's going to harm your marriage. And what you should do, how you, so you know what not to do, and she also teaches you how to avoid it, or the antidote. Instead of doing this, do this, because if you do this, it's going to hurt your marriage for these reasons. And a lot of, I think we all make those mistakes. So it's very, very valuable. So that's 10 a.m. And then if you see that link there, that's to sign up. It's going to be on Skype. And then after we do that course, for those who are interested, she'll do a whole course, between 6 and 10 lessons, whatever. And everything that she's doing for the devotees in these courses will be on a donation basis. So the full course that she does, people, they charge like a few $100s per person. So it's not inexpensive, but she's not going to charge that. So actually, we don't have the ad on my Facebook page, do we? So, Sundari Radha, can you work that out with Guru Nishta to get the ads on Facebook and get the ads on my Facebook page and my website? And there's a little ad, my wife talking, and she's going to make another one. We're going to make another one tomorrow, and she'll tell you more about what we're doing. So if you're married, newlywed, thinking to get married, even if your marriage is good, it can be much better. And even if it's good, it can get bad, believe me. It happens. So I actually studied one section of the course and studied their materials, and I had been teaching about marriage before I took the course, 10 years or something. And there's some things that they're so good in that course that they're very subtle things about attitudes and dealings and relationships that make a huge difference. So it's really helped me. We have ads in your Facebook. Okay, we have ads on Facebook. We should then, Radha Priya, tell Guru Nishta to put the ad on the website also. So that's that. Yeah. It's like with my japa. Like with my japa, they say, "Who's your japa workshop for?" And I say, "You have a bead bag?" And I'll say, "Yeah, it's for you." So, you married? Engaged? On the brink of divorce? Thinking of getting married? Found somebody you're thinking about? Yeah, it's for you. The only person it's not for is the Naishtiki brahmacharis who aren't going to get married. Everyone else, and the sannyasis, and the vanapras, they're on their way out. It's for everybody else. It really will help. This is an area. This area, we need help. We all need help. We can all do better. Haribol Siddharth. Siddharth. Okay, we have 8 more minutes. This next one is important. We're on page 2 of 4 pages, so next week we can finish. Sometimes this is called letting go of unmet expectations. Sometimes we only need to let go of unmet expectations. For example, you are invested in outcomes that you can't control, like controlling other people's actions or reactions. As you know or should know, we can't control others. But you're invested in trying to. You might say that some expectations are natural. You expect a friend to be honest, a lover to be devoted, a guru to be perfect in character. Still, expectations can be setups for huge disappointments. And this is always good to keep in mind. So this is interesting because, sometimes they say, well, I don't have any expectations, then I won't do anything, or I won't be very successful at what I'm doing because I don't care. And if I don't expect people to be honest, to have a certain etiquette and so forth, then I could be abused by them. Yeah, and all of this is true. But what we're talking about here is expecting something from someone that they can't do, that they'll never do, or expecting a situation to be a way it's never going to be. Then it becomes a huge problem. And you might expect someone to be a certain way because of their position, but it may not be possible for them to be that way. And there can be various reasons. They may have other responsibilities. They can't give attention to what you would expect they would give attention to, etc. So I don't want to say expectations are bad, because that's not true. But some of them will cause you trouble when they're unrealistic or impossible, especially impossible expectations. And the other thing about expectations that's interesting is that sometimes you have expectation for another person, but you never share that expectation, so they don't even know. So you're expecting them to be something or do something, but you never told them. They say, well, they should know. Well, if they're this, then they should be this way. Maybe yes, maybe no. It's always best to express your expectation and then see if that expectation is within the realm of possibility after expressing it to that person. So that's something you can consider sometimes. Especially if you're going to get married, that's important. Okay. If you don't have expectations, you'll have nothing to let go of. Sometimes we paint imaginary pictures of what people or situations will be like, and because they are imaginary, we're always let down. Have you ever gone somewhere you've never been? Oh, well, we're going to Swiss Alps. So you get all these pictures in your mind, and you get there. It's not like you thought. I think in life is a bit like that. We just imagine something's going to be a certain way. And when it isn't, we can be let down. But if we never had that image, we wouldn't be let down. Or if we had a realistic image, we wouldn't be let down. So you have to be careful. If you are hoping that fairy tales come true, then perhaps you need to work on being more self-satisfied rather than expecting miracles. A common example is when women think they're Prince Charming will come along and solve all their problems. He might solve some, but inevitably he'll create some also. Or a lot. So recognize that what you need to let go of may simply be a self-created illusion about someone or something. So I think that's common, and you probably all experienced it. Right? Yes? Okay. We have 5 minutes left. What should we do? You want to ask questions? You want to have kirtan? We can save the rest for next week. What should we do? Anyone want to share an expectation they had that didn't come through, that caused them problems? An expectation they shouldn't have had? Anyone want to share that? There's a lot of people were very upset by the fact that kirtan. Okay, I'll play while I'm speaking. A lot of people were upset. A lot of people were upset about some of the problems leaders had. But if you look at it in retrospect, the leaders who had problems were devotees in their late 20s who had been, when Prabhupada left, who had been devotees 7, 8, 9 years. And the majority of the leaders of the original 11 who became gurus in the GBC were all in their late 20s. So, we expected that they would be very advanced and this and that. But, realistically speaking, why would you expect someone that young to be so transcendental? You're giving a 8-year-old man all kinds of power. You're expecting him to not be affected. Maybe our expectation should have been different. Maybe when they had trouble, I think, there were no adults. There was nobody in their 50s, 60s, 70s that time, or very few. But I think if there were a lot of devotees in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, that when the young men had trouble, they wouldn't have been surprised. They wouldn't have expectations. They would have probably said, okay, I think I'll wait before I get initiation. Let's see what's going to happen. They would be much wiser than we were, because they would probably expect some of these young men are going to have trouble. Right? Yeah, Rupa used to teach. Brought you piano. Sometimes she tries to play. I'm one of those who never studied piano. He's just trying to figure it out. Okay, we'll have a little kirtan. Rupa the Brahmin. Rupa, where are you? Are you in the UK now? Expecting senior devotees to be at a certain level. Shama Mandali. Yeah, I'll tell her. Where are you now? UK? Okay. Little kirtan? You're in Alachua. Oh my God. Maybe you can teach me piano. I don't think you could. I don't like to learn instruments. I just like to play them. I don't know. I'm kind of practicing a little bit. I just play it enough so I get by. Ramo, Hare Ramo, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, 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 Hare Hare. One more time, everyone together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Jai Prabhupada. Tomorrow at 10:30 on my Facebook page, we're doing kirtan. We do every Sunday at 10:30, but tomorrow's going to be a special kirtan because we have more devotees. And these devotees are expert at mridanga, expert at kartals. And I'm going to try to set up a sound system so we'll mic more of the instruments. So it's going to be nice, like a mini kirtan mela with like 10 devotees. But so you don't want to miss that on my Facebook page at 10:30. Tell your friends. It's going to be amazing. No, I can't say. Krishna's amazing, but it's going to be more amazing than it normally is amazing. Hare Krishna. No, it'll be 10:30 a.m. New York time. New York time. New York. So that's 5 hours later for you. So your time will be 2:30 p.m. So kind of like a little Sunday feast. 2:30 p.m. UK time, 10 Eastern Standard Time, and Indian time. Excuse me, it should be 8 p.m. Indian time. And Australian time. Yeah, that works for Australia, right? No, it doesn't work for Australia. That would be 11:30 p.m. Well, if you're up late. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.